Welcome back to our Genesis Bible study. In our previous study, we saw the birth of Esau and Jacob, and how Esau traded his birthright for a single meal. Today, we continue the story in Genesis chapters 27 and 28, where the blessing meant for Esau is given to Jacob, and we see how God's promise continues even through human weakness. Let's begin. As Isaac grows old and his eyesight becomes weak, he calls for his eldest son, Esau. Genesis chapter 27, verses 1 through 3 says, "When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his older son and said to him, 'My son.' And he answered, 'Here I am.' He said, 'Behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me.' Isaac plans to give Esau the family blessing after he prepares a meal for him. But Rebekah overhears the conversation. Remember, God had already told her before the twins were born that the older would serve the younger. So Rebekah creates a plan for Jacob to receive the blessing instead. Jacob dresses in Esau's clothing, and Rebekah places goat skins on his hands so that he will feel like his hairy brother. When Jacob comes before his father, Isaac questions him. Genesis chapter 27, verse 22 says, "So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him, and said, 'The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau.' Believing it is Esau, Isaac gives Jacob the blessing. Genesis chapter 27, verse 28 says, "May God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine." This blessing carries the covenant promise of leadership and prosperity. But when Esau returns and discovers what has happened, he is devastated. Genesis chapter 27, verse 34 says, "As soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry." Esau becomes angry and plans to kill Jacob after Isaac dies. Because of this, Rebekah tells Jacob to flee to her brother Laban until Esau's anger passes. Before Jacob leaves, Isaac blesses him again and sends him to find a wife from Rebekah's family. As Jacob travels, he stops for the night and rests his head on a stone. Genesis chapter 28, verse 12 says, "And he dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Then the Lord speaks to Jacob." Genesis chapter 28, verses 13 and 14 say, "I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. Your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth." God continues the covenant promise that began with Abraham. And then God gives Jacob an incredible reassurance. Genesis chapter 28, verse 15 says, "Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land." When Jacob wakes up, he realizes something powerful. Genesis chapter 28, verse 16 says, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." Jacob names that place Bethel, which means house of God. Genesis chapters 27 and 28 remind us of something important. God's plan is not dependent on perfect people. There is deception in this story. There is family conflict and broken trust. Yet even in the middle of human mistakes, God continues to carry out His promise. The covenant given to Abraham is now moving forward through Isaac and Jacob. And God assures Jacob that His presence will go with him wherever he travels. God's promises remain faithful, even when people are imperfect. Thank you for joining today's study. Next time, we will continue the story as Jacob begins his journey and encounters new challenges that will shape his life and his faith. Until then, may we remember that God is faithful to His promises, and His presence goes with us wherever we go.